Keto, How to Lose Weight Using Low-Carb Diet and Conquer Your Health with Keto Meal Plans. Written by Lorin. Narrated by Megowan. Introduction. There are many ways of defining the ketogenic diet. However, all the explanations of the ketogenic diet share one common aspect: a significant reduction in your carbohydrate consumption. That is what technically defines the ketogenic diet. In most cases, you will find the ketogenic diet recommends that you get about 90% of your calories from fats, with the remaining 10% being split between proteins and carbs. If you are just starting out with the ketogenic diet, setting specific macronutrient goals using the above definitions will help you. However, keep in mind the underlying reason why you are doing so. Do you want to lose weight, boost your athletic performance, or use it as a therapeutic approach? Your goal should determine the macronutritional ratios that you adopt in your diet. When it comes to ketogenic diet, do not assume that it is one of those one-size-fits-all approaches. There are many variables to consider. This is why the focus should be on bringing your carbohydrate and protein consumption low enough to force your body to rely on fats for energy production. But why is it important to reduce carbs and proteins in your diet and increase your fat intake? Well, it's all about achieving a state known as ketosis and producing ketone bodies. In order to understand these terms, you have to know how the ketogenic diet works. The human diet is made up of 3 macronutrients: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. In an ideal world, you should be consuming these macronutrients in the right ratios so that you stay healthy and lean as possible. Of course, this will depend on several external factors, such as age, health goals, body composition, etc. However, for a long term now, our modern or Western diet has consisted of large quantities of carbohydrates with moderate proteins and very little fat. The body breaks down the carbohydrates into the simplest molecule possible, which is glucose. These glucose molecules enter your bloodstream. Your pancreas automatically releases a hormone known as insulin. Insulin has 2 roles to play here. It can either transport the glucose molecules to your body tissues that need energy at that specific time, or it will store the excess glucose in the form of glycogen in the liver in case the body has no immediate need for glucose. The body prefers glucose because it is a simple molecule that is very easy to absorb into the bloodstream. That is why whenever you feel hungry, you immediately crave for a snack that is filled with sugar. Foods such as cakes, cookies, and pies are all carb-heavy foods. When hunger pangs strike, the normal thing is to grab a sugary snack. They contain a lot of carbohydrates that can be broken down into blood glucose. Your body will take the glucose it needs from these foods and then store the excess in the form of fatty tissue. Of course, since glucose is used up so quickly, you will soon start feeling hungry again. Grab another cookie and continue the cycle. This is why our society today is facing a health crisis with diseases such as obesity, cardiovascular ailments, and even cancer. However, the ketogenic diet recommends that you should slash your carbohydrate consumption and instead eat lots of fats. Why is this necessary? The simple reason is that your body needs to go into ketosis. Ketosis is the metabolic condition where our body stops utilizing glucose and instead breaks down fats within the body to generate energy. Think of it as a form of fasting, except in this case you are still eating food. It is important to note that ketosis cannot occur unless there is a reduction in blood glucose and glycogen levels. So how does this work exactly? When you reduce your carbohydrate intake, your body experiences a corresponding reduction in energy. You may feel weak and probably get a bit cranky. This is because your body is no longer getting enough blood glucose to generate energy. So now your body needs to find an alternative energy source. So, what is your best option? As we already mentioned before, there is the glycogen stored in your liver. Unfortunately, on a ketogenic diet, your glycogen reserves can only last approximately 48 hours. So now that your blood glucose and glycogen levels are depleted, what next? Since there are only 2 other macronutrients left, proteins and fats, your body must find a way to convert one of these into energy. Protein makes a great source of energy, but the problem is that it is stored in the form of muscle. If your body starts breaking down muscle to produce energy, you'll end up too weak to
Sample complete. Ready to continue?